Welcome back to Sports Breakdown, everyone. Episode 2, can you believe it? We're jumping right into the thick of things, right into the AFL preseason, and things are heating up already. Today, we're going to break down a recent game between the Carlton Blues and the GWS Giants. It was a game that, well, ended in a pretty decisive victory for the Blues.
Yeah, a decisive victory is putting it lightly. They really took it to the Giants. The final score was 18.16, 124 to 9.166. And what's interesting, well, the Blues just came out swinging right from the start. First quarter alone, they put up 5 unanswered goals.
I mean, that's a statement, isn't it? Starting strong like that. But it does make you think, was this a sign of Carlton's dominance, or were the Giants just not having a good day? What do you think? What will each team take away from a performance like that?
Well, for the Blues, it's got to be a confidence booster, right? Especially with all the injuries they've been dealing with, which, yeah, we'll get into that a bit later. But a win like this, it's got to feel good. Can't get too comfortable, though. The Giants were missing some key players themselves, so it's not a perfect picture of where they stand. As for the Giants, this has got to be a wake-up call. Need to tighten up their game, especially in the midfield, and really work on their offensive strategy.
Yeah, you're right. A win's a win, but context is key, especially in the preseason. And speaking of context, we got to talk about the elephant in the room for Carlton, those injuries. Even with this big win, they lost Mitch McGovern to an ankle injury during the match. How worried should fans be about this growing list of players on the sidelines?
Well, I'd say it's definitely a cause for concern. McGovern's injury, it adds to an already long list, and it's got some big names on it. Charlie Curnow, Mark Pittonet, Corey Durden. Oh, and let's not forget, they were already without Sam Walsh for this game. It really makes you wonder, how will they handle all these missing pieces when the season actually kicks off?
Yeah, it seems like they're going to have to rely on some of their younger players to step up and fill those gaps. And actually, speaking of those younger players, some of them had some pretty impressive performances. Tom DeConing, for example, 17 disposals and 20 hitouts.
Oh, absolutely. And Lucas Camporeale, 20 touches and 8 marks. Don't forget Brody Kemp, he kicked 3 goals.
Exactly. They really showed up. So it makes you think, are these young guys, are they the key to Carlton's success this season, especially with all the injuries? It'll be interesting to see how they handle the pressure, right? And if they can keep playing at this level once the stakes are higher.
Yeah, the regular season's a whole different ballgame, that's for sure.
Now, on the flip side, the Giants, they weren't exactly firing on all cylinders. I think they're missing players. Guys like Jake Stringer, Callum Brown, Tom Green, and Ryan Angwin played a big part in that loss.
Oh, no doubt about it. Those are some crucial players, and you'd feel their absence on any team. But even with a full squad, the Giants have some work to do. Their midfield struggled to control the tempo and that forward line. Not as effective as we've seen in the past. This match really exposed some areas they'll need to work on if they want to be a serious contender.
So both teams have some homework to do, sounds like. But for Carlton, that challenge is amplified by these injuries. Let's dig into that injury report a bit more, see what we're working with here.
All right, let's do it. It's actually, well, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some good news. Jack Silvagni's back from his knee injury. Much needed boost for their forward line, but then there's, well, the rest of the list.
It's a long one, that's for sure. It's causing some anxiety for the Carlton fans out there. So where do things stand with Sam Walsh's hamstring? What's the latest?
Okay, so the latest is he's back to full training and should be good to go for round 1.
That's good news. He's vital for them.
Yeah.
What about Charlie Curnow? How's his knee recovery coming along?
He's still in a modified program, but the good news is he's progressing well. Probably missed the first few rounds, but the expectation is he'll be back sooner rather than later.
Fingers crossed. So
Yeah.
those two hopefully back soon. But what about the players who are out for a longer period? Mark Pittonet, how's that calf injury looking?
Unfortunately for Pittonet, it's not looking great. Probably looking at a rounds 4-5 return. Tough blow to their ruck division.
And then there's Corey Durden, probably out for a few more weeks with that ankle sprain.
Right. And of course, we can't forget about Jagga Smith. ACL injury, out for the season.
Yeah, that's a big loss. Key leader and, well, a force in that midfield. Tough break for him and the team.
It really is. Okay, so we've got a good picture of who's in and who's out for Carlton. But with all these missing pieces, how do you think they'll adapt their game plan? What adjustments can they make to stay competitive?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We
Yeah.
saw some promising things from those younger players in this preseason match. They'll need to keep stepping up, filling those gaps. I think we'll see them rely on quicker ball movement, a more collaborative style of play. Maybe they'll experiment with some different midfield rotations, try to make up for that loss of experience. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it, how they adapt. It'll be a real test of their depth. A real test, that's for sure. You know, speaking of tests, I think it's time for us to try and predict the future a bit. How about we talk about how these teams might do this coming season? What's your gut feeling about the Blues, based on everything we've talked about so far?
Okay, I'm going to try to be optimistic here. I think if, and it's a big if they can get through this injury wave and get their key players back on the field, they actually have a chance to make a real run for the finals. They've definitely got the talent, they've got the experience, but it's all going to come down to health. That's going to be the deciding factor for them. I like that, cautiously optimistic. I think I'm leaning a bit more conservative when it comes to my prediction for Carlton. I do think they'll make the finals, but I see them more as a fringe contender. It really depends on those younger players. Can they step up? Can they perform at a high level consistently? We saw some potential in this preseason match, but the regular season is a whole other thing.
Yeah, true. The regular season is a grind, and it's a lot to ask for those young guys to carry a team with such high expectations. But, stranger things have happened. Maybe one of them becomes the breakout star this season. Who knows? Okay, so let's switch gears a bit. Let's talk about the Giants. What's your take on their outlook for the season?
I think for the Giants, it's going to be a rebuilding year. They're in a transition phase, new coach, lots of new faces on the roster. Their forward line's got some serious talent, Toby Green, Jesse Hogan, Aaron Cadman. But they got to find a way to get them the ball more consistently. I see them maybe somewhere in the middle of the ladder, possibly outside of finals contention. There will be some good wins, no doubt, but there's going to be some growing pains, too, while they figure things out.
So a year of development, finding their identity, building for the future. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't count them out completely, Maybe they surprise us, pull off some upsets along the way.
You never know. That's what's so great about the AFL. Anything can happen any given day. It's a long season, and we're just getting started.
That's for sure. Okay, before we move on, I want to go back to something from this match that really stood out to me. Those young Carlton players we were talking about, DeConing, Camperale, Kemp. What do you think long-term? Do they have what it takes to become stars?
I think they all have the potential, to be major players in the AFL. Like DeConing, he's got the size, the athleticism, the skills. He could become one of the top ruckmen in the league. And Camporia, natural football IQ, that beautiful left foot, slices through defenses. And Kemp, he's versatile, he finds the goals, huge asset in that forward line.
Exciting to think about the impact they could have on Carlton's future, especially, if they keep improving at this rate. Speaking of young talent, any up-and-comers on the Giants side that we should be watching?
For the Giants, keep an eye on Finn Callahan. Still developing, but he's got something special, that it factor. Could be a real game changer down the road. He showed some flashes in this preseason match.
I love those players, the ones who can just change the game with one play. That's what keeps it exciting.
Absolutely. It's those young guys on both sides. They're the ones to watch this season. They'll get tested, they'll make mistakes, but that's how they grow. That's how they become the next generation of stars.
Okay, so to sum things up, we've covered a lot of ground today. Analyzed the Blues win over the Giants, dug into those injury reports, even made some predictions about how each team might do this season. But before we wrap things up, I want to leave you with a question, something to think about.
Lay it on me. Love a good question.
All right, so thinking about everything we've discussed, the wins, the losses, the injuries, the emerging talent, which team do you think is better equipped to handle the challenges? The unexpected things that are bound to happen during an AFL season. Why? Think about their strengths, weaknesses, their depth, their leadership, even their mental toughness. What do you think?
Great question. It's not just about who looks good on paper, it's about who can adapt, who can overcome obstacles, who can stay strong when things get tough. Can't wait to see how the season unfolds.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. It really is amazing, though, isn't it? How much you can learn from just one preseason match.
Oh, absolutely. It's more than just the score. You can see how the teams are working together, who's stepping up, what needs work.
Yeah, it gives you a taste of what's to come. Gets you excited for the season ahead.
Exactly. And with the AFL, you just know there are always surprises right around the corner.
Oh, yeah, always. Upsets, breakout stars, you just never know what's going to happen. That's what keeps us coming back for more.
Couldn't agree more. So to everyone listening, get ready. Buckle up. It's going to be another exciting AFL season.
And we'll be here with you every step of the way, breaking it all down, analyzing all the biggest stories right here on Sports Breakdown.
We'll see you next time.
See you then.